everyone. This is Turk182, and I am here with Wallcrawler 1.
Hey, everybody.
The enthusiasm is just, I love it. It's just like, we get something new. It's like, hey. So we are here with a segment that we're trying out here called In the Gutters. So if you are not familiar with what the gutter is, we're in comic talk. So the gutter is what, Wallcrawler?
It's the space in between the panels.
Space in between
It's
the
that
panels.
time lapse that's supposed to go from space to space.
Right. So if you are Bill Sienkiewicz or Chris Bachalo, then you have no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is supposed to be a divider between like panels. And I
Inset.
or you could always just do the Keith Giffen and just the Hollywood Squares.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
9 panels each page.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's a great way of doing it. Because, I mean, I've seen him do, like, especially with this Legion of Superhero stuff, where it wasn't like all 9 panels was a different picture.
Yeah.
It would be like panel 1 may be a different picture, but then panels 2, 3, 5, and 6 would be all part of the same picture.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, there's like there's something to be said about using the traditional way, and I admire what some people do without the gutters, but like it is tradition and it's really effective when used well. I mean, it's just that's the way it should be done.
Yeah. And then so you get Chris Bachalo, who never grew out of like being in school and just scribbling on paper, is like, oh, I've done this big page of art here, and I'm just going to scribble all over it here, and just do little doodles here, and vines growing all up between there. Now, it's really creative. It's really nice to see someone do that kind of stuff.
Well, I like his stuff, I do, but like we were just talking about Deadpool. He just did the new Deadpool.
Did he?
And I gotta say, man, I like his stuff. He's a great artist, but it's almost hard to look at. I mean, it's almost kind of reminds me of his steampunk stuff, where it's so much stuff going on that it almost is distracting.
Yeah.
He's great. He's better than me any day of the week, but because I draw too. But like, man.
Yeah, I remember having some of his issues of Generation X, where some of the panels were really, really busy, and it wasn't like now where like the like computer digital like coloring and stuff was really well done. Sometimes those colors were kind of muddled, so when you've got that much going on there, it was kind of hard to kind of really kind of get that focus, and sometimes it can be hard to tell like the direction that like a story's going in, and when you've got all that kind of stuff going, you should be just your typical left to right, but then some people get really creative and and like, oh, I'm telling the story in this kind of fashion and going around in a circle and stuff. So, but I mean, like, not to take away from his art, because he's a fantastic artist. Even though I tell you that one episode of When Lose Draw, that he was like the guest artist on there.
No way! Oh, that's unfair.
It is so unfair.
Come on! That's ridiculous. I didn't know that happened.
So
did they win?
On Team A, we've got Little Timmy's going to be doing the drawing. I draw trees. And on Team B, we've got Chris Bachalo, the Marvel and DC comic book artist. How you doing?
They did win. They had to have won. There's no way that they didn't win, right? If they didn't win, that would just be he had to have the worst team ever.
Well, you know what happened is he's still roughing it out with like the skeleton and stuff, and the other person's done. They're like, I'm not done yet. Good thing they didn't have like Rob Liefeld on there. They have to come back to the episode like 2 years later. He's got like a hand finish.
There's another artist, like I'll just go throw it in there real fast. You haven't read Gideon Falls yet.
No.
But like there's this artist Andrea Sorrentino, I think that's the
She did Green Arrow during the New 52.
Okay, and then she did Old Man Logan. Man, this Gideon Falls thing, I got to show you some of the panel layouts that she's done. She doesn't use gutters. Sometimes she does, but when she doesn't, man, I've never seen so creative design the way she's done it. It's incredible, man. It's so good.
I'll tell you what I like, and I'm saying it's going to sound super sexist, and I don't mean it that way. but Nicola Scott.
Okay, who's that?
So she's DC artist. She did Earth 2 during the 52, and she's done a couple of DC stuff. Really nice, really nice stuff. And it's surprising to see a female artist do like some of the more mainstream superhero stuff, and she's really, really good. And like I said, I don't mean to sound sexy, but you don't really find a lot of like female artists that do like the real like super mainstream hero stuff.
It's a difference.
Right, they do like, you know, I think when I think of a lot of them, I think of people like, and I'm not putting these people down at all because they're great artists, but I think of like a Colleen Duran or a Jill Thompson or someone like that.
Amanda Connor is she's broken through, but even her stuff, you can tell that it's not. I don't know how to say it. Like you can tell it's not a guy drawing. I don't know what else to say.
But it's a good style.
It is. I like her.
Good style.
I like her.
But I was gonna say I'm actually looking it up now because we mentioned it and we were talking about this earlier. So before I just stick my foot in my mouth by way of my ass, I wanted to pull this up and just make sure that I'm gonna say the right thing.
And to be honest, like until you said that, I wasn't exactly sure. I know Andrea, my wife's name's Andrea. That is a girl's name, but like I wasn't 100% sure that Sorrentino was a girl.
Well, okay, so way back when Warlock and the Infinity Watch and Incredible Hulk, Angel Medina, and I'm not used to a guy being named Angel, and thought Angel Medina was a woman.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wait, no. So Green Arrow, the Andrea Sorrentino, and Jeff Lemire was doing that, but I'm thinking, and I can't remember if it was during this time period or not, but for some reason, I'm thinking that. So Dan Jurgens was on Green Arrow for a while, and I've always liked Dan Jurgens' work. And we're getting way off topic here before we even start our topic. But I'm feeling that Ann Nocenti did some Green Arrow stuff. I kind of remember her name in that, but I could be way wrong. During the New 52, I kind of remember her doing something.
See, I've never read her except for her Marvel stuff.
And I say I could be wrong. I just remember her name, and I was like, oh. But I could be thinking of maybe like a Marvel thing that she did, and I'm just, it came around the same time or whatever, and I'm just like completely off my nut. But anyway, so we're trying out this new thing here as we've rambled on like a Zeppelin song, and oh my God, that's like the worst car driving effect ever.
Watching Gargoyles.
Yeah, so it was from like 1970. Well, it's on. So if you guys have listened to any of our moms think we're funny, you know that we just have this habit of having the TV on while we're doing this. Yeah, it just became something that Akomi and I did, and it just is a kind of a visual, because most of the time we're like recording like late at night / early in the morning, and we will just kind of have these just random things like, oh my God, what is that? And you guys have no idea what the hell we're talking about. But yeah, we're watching this 1972 Gargoyles movie, and it's the car driving here in this one scene. It's so bad. The car's just rocking back and forth. You can clearly see that they're like in front of like a blue screen. There's probably like two, I don't know, like crewmen on the side just like rocking the car back and forth like on a teeter-totter. It's so bad. But anyway, and I was mentioned to WC earlier that Bernie Casey is playing the gargoyle. I'm like, why would you waste a talent like Bernie Casey in like this really bad gargoyle suit? It's horrible. Anyway.
And Andrea Sorrentino is a guy.
Is it?
Yeah, he's a guy.
So it must be Andre.
I thought it was Andrew was the male version of Andrew, but yeah, I think he's from Europe. So.
Oh, so I mean.
Yeah.
I never have to worry about running into him at a con. Him on the whip my ass for pronouncing his name. Oh shit, Ann Nocenti is like 62 years old.
She looks pretty good for 62.
She's aged very well.
Why?
I'm not going to make any sexist comments because I'm not running to her one day and be like, hey, can you like...
That's why you use code words.
Give me some pointers, and she'd be like, hell no. Because you've made some references about me. Right?
She didn't look like she's easily offended. If Jim Shooter can buy her dominatrix outfit for Christmas, I think she's fine.
Well, I think she's fine too. That's beside the point.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Tell me a story. Tell me a bedtime story.
See? God bless America. You were just as bad as Comey. You guys like drag me down. You know what? You know what's bad is you guys are like the person, like, you know, when someone's drowning and you go out there to help them and they pull you under, but then you drown and they live. And you're like, wait, how did that work? I was trying to save you, but somehow I'm the one that died.
You knew I was a scorpion the whole time.
That is one of my favorite Aesop fables. She did do some Green Arrow during the New 52. I guess after Lemire left. But
I didn't know she did anything for a while. I thought she just did Marvel.
Yeah, I was trying to follow like New 52 stuff, and then I was just like, you know what, this is just absolute garbage. It was. Yeah. But anyway, you know, we are way, way, way off whatever it was we planned on talking about.
Well, it's comics. It's all comics.
It's comics.
It's like I actually just read. I texted you the other day. Like I watched this channel. It's Ed Piskor's channel. What is it? Comics K-Fab, and they were talking about Web of Spider-Man Annual #2, and it had Art Adams art and Mike Mignola, and Ann Nocenti wrote both parts for both of them. I guess it was early on when they first started. It might have been their first gigs there. And like
Web of Spider-Man Annual #2.
Yeah, and like the stories weren't that great, but it was a Warlock for Art Adams, and then Mike Mignola did like a dream sequence with Peter Parker where he's having a nightmare about like some villains. And they were pretty good. I mean, it was pretty good stories. I mean, but they weren't the best. But like, I liked her Daredevil run. I thought she was really good.
Yeah, I've always liked her. I didn't want to talk about Ann Nocenti because you know we were going to talk about Claremont and stuff. But the first thing I can really remember her name being on was the Long Shot limited series.
Yeah, you're right. I think that might have been her first thing, right? Like,
that's the first thing I remember being. I guess she was editing and stuff like that because she was editing along with Simonson on some Claremont stuff.
Yeah.
But
like as a writer,
I tell you, as much
didn't she write it? Yeah.
As much as I tried to read Long Shot,
I couldn't get into it.
Dude, it was. I remember I was like 3 issues in. Well, it's only 6 issues. I'm issue. I'm like, I'm really not quite sure what's going on here. Now, I was much younger at the time, and I really haven't tried to read it again. But I guess it was supposed to be kind of like this, like traveling, like road trip of a person, like trying to find their identity and stuff. And then the last one, issue 6, was a double-sized issue, and I always wondered if it was meant to be, because that was something you didn't see in a limited series, where the last was also in this double-sized issue, and I kind of feel like it was late coming out. I'm trying to think back when it came out, if I remember it being late or what, but it was like, almost as if it was like meant to be maybe 7, or there was so much story still to tell, they just had to double it up. But it took me, and I still don't even know now to this day if I know what the Long Shot series is about. I love it, and I think part of it's because I love Art Adams' art, and I love the character of Long Shot and Ricochet Rita, who I think, according to comics, didn't she become Spiral because of like whatever happened with Long? She was a stunt man or stunt woman, and Long Shot runs into her as he's traveling through on the set of a movie, and they partner because it's got that cover with the 2 of them with the jetpacks on. But then like through some meandering story, I think that she actually ended up going into the Mojoverse, and she became Spiral, who chased him to Earth, which eventually led him to the whole Terminator, like, you know, paradoxal thing.
No, I mean, you're probably right. I didn't ever get to read it because, like, you know, those books back in the day when you were trying to get them, they kind of ran for some money because you couldn't really find all of them, like at least where I was, and
weren't they direct market?
Huh?
Long Shots were they direct market?
Probably, but like they were, you know, like back in the day they were like $5 up to $10 books, some of them.
Oh,
I mean, not now, but like back then, and like so I didn't have all of them, and to be honest, I couldn't. I just looked at the pictures. I'm not lying. I just looked at that art. Like, that art was amazing. And you know what I found disconcerting about Long Shot?
Shit, I got that issue.
I hated his hands. It looked like Labyrinth. It was like a Labyrinth guy in leather, and like he had these weird Nightcrawler hands. And it for Nightcrawler, it didn't bother me, but because you could see his like fingers.
Long Shot?
Yeah, they were.
Well,
weird.
Long Shot only has 3 fingers and a thumb.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's freaky. It's Simpson's hands.
So that's the Web Spider-Man Annual #2?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Charles
have that
Vess
issue.
cover.
I like Charles Vess.
Yeah.
He did.
I like his art. I don't like.
See, he didn't do. Hooky was done by. It was Spider-Man, Something of the Mist, and the graphic novel.
Oh, Hooky.
No, Hooky was Bernie Wrightson.
Oh, that's right.
This was Something of the Mist, but it was.
I didn't have it.
It was. My friend Will had that because he's a huge Spider-Man fan. But I always liked the character of Longshot, and like I said, that's the first thing I remember Ann Nocenti's name being on. And actually, that's one of the things I think I'd like to learn a little bit more about the making of the Longshot like limited series. So I think there was like a big thing around that. Like I think he was supposed to be more, and then of course Claremont later picked him up and brought him to the X-Men and stuff. And by original accounts, and I think this might go back to Wizard. Is that Longshot? Gambit was supposed to be Longshot after going through the Siege Perilous, because Gambit, like when you first see him in that X-Men issue, well, I guess not like his first appearance, but the first appearance that you see, and I think it's Lee Weeks. I'm not sure if he did the art, but I think he did the cover, and I think he did the art there. As after Storm was like a little girl. And Gambit stealing from the guy's house, the collector, and his eye kind of glowed, and it seemed like he had this luck power, and I think that's what he was supposed to be, was that, because everyone had gone through Siege Perilous, because when Rogue went through Siege Perilous, that's how she ended up in the Savage Land, and she was dating Magneto, and she had gotten separated from Carol Danvers. You remember that? Yeah. Because there was like a zombie version of Captain Marvel that was coming after her in the Savage Land and
stuff. The Jim Lee stuff?
Yep. Yeah. And so anyway, yeah.
Those weren't what we want to talk about at all.
No, but I mean, it kind of gets back to, well, actually, in a way it does.
Good comics, all good comics.
So long way around, it gets us back to Chris Claremont. So I think two things we wanted to talk about, and probably will be two separate podcasts, is I wanted to talk about Chris Claremont and the X-Men, and we were also going to talk about some of our favorite issues. Mm-hmm. So I know you had some specific issues in mind, and I didn't really have anything like in mind, like these are my all-time favorite issues, because there's so many issues that I really like. But yeah, I think we just start with that. I feel like leave a noticeable gap of time. That way you can find where the ad break's supposed to be. Because Akomi doesn't like to listen to our episodes. Like when he does the audio editing for it, he's he feels like ruins like the integrity of if he listens to it.
Is that a thing?
Either he's like some kind of weird like Native American type thing, don't take a picture of me because you're going to capture my soul, so I can't listen to the audio.
Huh.
I don't know.
It's like somebody that acts in their movie and they can't watch their own film, they can't. It's it's too much. That seems like, how would you know how to grow, How would you know that you messed up? Or
either he's just a lazy SOB.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So we were going to talk about the comic books and that kind of stuff and favorite issues.
The comics that made us.
That's right. The comics that made us.
Oh, don't sue us. The shinning.
Here come our team of lawyers stealing our branded. So you have you talk about I think you had a list of 5, right?
Yeah, 5 or 6. Ones that, basically what I was thinking of is when you start reading comics, everybody's experience is different, but back in the day, what are these things? So let's try them out. And you don't know you're going to be a collector. You don't know you're going to do it for a lifetime. And so when you start off, you might pick up 1 or 2, but then there's these ones that go, wow, what is this? I want to do this. I want to keep doing, or not only just, and then there's that theory. It's there's no comic book collector. There's just somebody that wants that job. I think anybody that starts reading stories has their own story and they want to tell it, and this is a great format to tell stories in. So these are the ones that maybe changed me from somebody that's just a reader to somebody that's like, wow, this is what I want to do, you know? So that's kind of what my list is. So.
But anyway, but yeah, I mean, so let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What was the first comic book that you looked at, the first one in your hand?
I don't remember that necessarily, but I do know this. Like, what got me started was, I think my grandmother bought me. You remember back in the day, they used to have school fairs, and they probably still do. But like, my grandmother.
Yeah, like the Scholastic book fairs and stuff.
Yeah, my grandmother bought me a subscription to Captain America. Well, who was doing Captain America at that time?
Mike Zeck.
No.
John Byrne?
John Byrne. It was the Roger Stern John Byrne run, which was a very limited run. It was controversial because they didn't even finish their run because
it was
royalties. What was the royalties? Like, it was like a certain amount of issues, and there was a dispute about royalties, so they stopped. And then that's when Mike Zeck, I think, pretty soon after that, started taking over. But like,
who was that? Just out of curiosity, who was the artist on the Mike Zeck run? I mean, the writer on the Mike Zeck run. Was
it DeMatteis or
DeMatteis?
I don't know.
Dave Michelini?
Maybe.
It was
Roger. I just remember the Roger Stern, Captain America run. You know, where like he's like for president or whatever.
And then there's the one with him
Captain
fighting Dragon Man on the cover.
Yeah,
that's a nice one.
And
Bear and Blood.
Is it Hyde? The one that you got the other day.
Yeah. That's the one with like it's Cap, and then it's like Batroc the leader, but then in the background is Hyde.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And but anyway, and there was an anniversary issue, and the cover was done by Frank Miller, but the interior was done by John Byrne, and it was basically a retelling of his origin. And there's this 2-page spread where it's just Cap, and that's not necessarily great storytelling, but it's just a splash page. But it has all this
shots.
Yeah, of all the stuff that happened. And man, I looked at that thing, that blew my mind. Like that, just like that was incredible. Like that became comics to me, and like that scene and those issues, like so that's why Cap to this day is still one of my favorite characters, you know. And then but the comic that really got me, like where it sucked me in, it was only half an issue because they broke it up between Batman and Green Lantern, was Detective 525. And Killer Croc and Batman go at it in the sewer. It's like a Dick Giordano. Dan Jurgens, I think, penciled it. Dick Giordano was inking it. And man, that thing...
Which one was that?
It's like where the Killer Croc, when he came out, he wasn't some savage dummy. It was like, oh, he wasn't Bane, you know, like the way they do him in the movies. He took over Gotham. Like, he was smart. He was strategic. And he brought Batman down the sewers, and he basically drowns him. And Batman barely escapes with his life. And I was like, you know, as a kid, I'd only seen the TV show. I was like...
The 60s show?
Yeah. So I'm like, Batman just got destroyed, and that blew my mind. So that's why Croc is elevated in my mind to this day, because he legit took over Gotham, over Joker, over Penguin, over everybody. He was king for just a little bit, and he was smart too. So, oh my gosh.
When they introduced him into in the Batman animated series, you know, he's smart then because he's trying to set up Bullock.
Yeah.
And try to make Bullock look like a killer and stuff.
Yeah, but they gradually start to, you know, lessen him over. Was that Vendetta?
That's Vendetta.
Yeah.
But you know, the only time that they really dumbed Croc down was in Almost Got Him, because when he teams up with Baby Doll later on, you know, he's and then of course Sideshow. I think it's the name of the one that's my favorite. I love that one.
Well, the animated series, but I'm going more with the comic.
Oh, so I never really saw Killer Croc in the comics.
Yeah, they pretty much just turn him into like this feral, like he's not smart like he was at the beginning.
And he used to be was he a wrestler?
Yeah, and originally, and see, it's funny that we're watching this Gargoyles thing. He was kind of more like that color, like that dark greenish.
These guys look more like Fishman than Gargoyles.
Yeah, but like
they look like rejects from Clash of the Titans.
Yeah. But like Yeah, those are two that definitely. And then like the other one are Claremont issues. If you want to save that for the Claremont stuff, and then and the best death in comics, in my opinion, Legion of Superheroes, Volume 2, Number 4, where the death of Karate Kid, where Bendis rips it off and he kills Hawkeye pretty much the same way, which nobody ever calls him out on, and I don't know why.
People bash Bendis so much.
It's pretty easy to do. Have you read a Superman?
I try to defend Bendis because I've had this story once before where when I met Bendis, he was and I met him twice. Second time wasn't as cool as the first time, but the second time he was Brian Michael Bendis.
Sure.
The first time I met him, he was I'm Brian Bendis.
Brian Bendy.
But the first time I met him, he was really cool. I met him at Heroes Con, and he didn't have like a big booth table. He was just there, and he was talking, and he was just like, he was doing Sam and Twitch. And I was like, yeah, I don't like Spawn. He's like, well, Spawn's really bad, not in this book. And he's like, yeah, reading is like, and Angel Medina's, and it's like, that chick is doing the art. No, go back to our thing. But
it's like Andrea Sorrentino, that girl, she's doing it too, right?
It's like, so Angel Medina is doing the art, and by this time I've been kind of burned on Angel Medina. So this is before I got into behind the pages of comics. Mm-hmm. And I've been kind of burned with Angel Medina because I loved his work. I loved his work on the Hulk book. And then he did like a bunch of really solid issues. And then his work really just kind of faded off, And then he went to Warlock and Infinity Watch. And he did like a really couple solid issues. And then his work just kind of faded off. And so
monthly grind can affect you, man. It's hard.
Well, that's the thing. I'm looking at this like, this guy just doesn't give a crap. But no, it really is. It's like trying to crank that book out there. And I think I don't know which one's easier, which one is like looser, like doing like and I think Marvel, they still do some of the Marvel method depending on who it is, but I think more there's more of like a full scripted thing. I guess depending on who the writer is, but doing the DC full script, page panel kind of thing, to where you kind of know what it should look like, but that may stifle your creativity, and then you're like, okay, I know this is the angle you want, but I don't see it the way you're seeing it, so I got to kind of envision that. Or the Marvel method was like, okay, you got 22 pages, here's all the story needs to be like, encapsulated in that, kind of go nuts. So I don't know which way is better for an artist. It might just depend on the artist, like, how much free reign you need and how much structure you need.
Well, I've heard you say it before, like you have a hard time finding certain artists to draw what you want them to draw. And I know from the other side of it, like, it is hard to see what somebody else sees sometimes, Mm-hmm. And sometimes you just go with your gut instinct. And like Gary Busey, we were just talking about it, like he basically like improvised this whole acting job on Silver Bullet. Yeah. We just watched it. He was showing it to me, and I didn't know that. And like sometimes you wing it and you hope it works. It's like sometimes they go off script, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't.
So Okomi has accused me of being Alan Moore when it comes to my scripts.
Uh-huh.
So if you've ever read an Alan Moore script,
it's very.
Alan Moore describes everything from like the pattern of the carpet that's like on the floor. It's if you look at, I think it's in one of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and you look at the script, and it's like it even details the books that are on the bookcase. That's kind of level of detail there.
Alan Moore is up his own ass though too. So like I like Alan Moore. I love Alan Moore, but man, did you hear what he just said?
No.
He pretty much said that every mass superhero is an Aryan, basically saying they're Nazis, like an Aryan dream or something like that. Like
deep inside, we all wants to be white.
Yeah, it was something kind of like, and the thing about him that gets on my nerves is like this guy, he made his living off comic. Nobody would care about Jerusalem if he hadn't done.
Watchmen.
Come on, like get out of your own way, man. It's like I know a lot of your hang-ups are your own doing and your own attitude towards them. And what you did, it wasn't just just DC screwing you over. You had a lot to do with your own. I don't know what it is. How can you be anti-capitalist and then be mad about getting screwed over with money? You know, it's like you can't have it. It's like it's like arguing with my son. You can't ask me for help and then know what you're talking about at the same time.
Right.
You know, you can't have it both ways.
It's like when Rage Against the Machine broke up, and they're like, you know, we want to get our message out there, and to do that, we've got to become popular. But when we become too popular, then we start to succumb to the trappings of being like famous,
successful.
Right. And Comey and I had a conversation about this about punk music, which is, you know, a true punk band like people call bands like Green Day sellouts, right? And they're like, you know, those guys sell out. They're not punk anymore. And I'm like, you know, maybe I still like some of Green Day's like later music. You know, I can't think of the one album that they did had Boulevard of Broken Dreams and everything on it. But I liked that album. I thought it was really good. I love the song St. Jimmy. I think it's really good. And Wake Me Up When September Ends. You know, those are. But the thing is, when it comes to punk music, punk is all about a revolution and a sound, and it's the sound of like the disenfranchised in the street. But once you reach a certain level, you can't sing punk anymore.
I was going to say
because you're separated from that. You can only be punk to a certain level, and then after that, you can't be punk anymore. And I know some people will still try to carry that on, but you really can't because you're now so separated from it. You can't speak for those people because you're not one of them anymore.
And to be honest, like, and maybe just because the music's been around so long, like, yeah, I'm used to it, but like, I never really thought of them too punk anyway because like they were pretty commercial from the beginning. I mean, like, what was it, Lollapalooza, where they started throwing mud at the like they were throwing like I mean that was Woodstock too. Yeah, it was like Dookie or something. Like that's where they broke out, was that album, and like they were playing that, and then people were throwing stuff, and they threw it back, and like, but their music kind of was radio ready. I mean, it's about as punk as Offspring's punk. You know, it's like you know what I'm saying? It's like that's not raw. It's not like in your face. It's not even Rage Against the Machine. I mean,
there's no Avril Lavigne when it comes to punk.
Yeah. And you know, to be honest, that's about it. It's like saying it's like Patton Oswalt saying like he thought he was cool because like, or Phil Collins was cool because he wore a suit with sneakers. It's like that's not really. It doesn't make you really like a badass, you know. It's like it's not.
That's kind of cool though.
Well, come on, man.
I mean, I'm just saying.
It was cool in the 80s.
Phil Collins had an album that he named No Jacket Required. And I was like, holy shit, he's just calling people out. I'm not wearing a fucking jacket. You can kiss my ass. I was like, that is mind-blowing. Holy shit. Stop the press.
But what I'm saying is freaking Green Day Fugazi? Hell no. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, they're no Rancid. But,
yeah.
But the thing is that the first album that we know of is Dookie, but then they had...
maybe before that. I don't know anything before that.
Like, who knows, who out there really knows the, like, from the Muddy Banks of Washaka, whatever it was, the first, the Nirvana album before Nevermind, you know, or the other, I'm like... Yeah, it's like the one we hear is the polished one, the studio
like
one. Like
Bleach and stuff. We didn't
right.
Really, yeah.
So yeah, it's like, you know, kind of like going back to the whole Alan Moore thing. It's like, well, yeah, you know, you get to that, but in Alan Moore's defense, I'm just gonna say, you know, sorcery is a hell of a drug.
Yeah, well, that's bullshit too. He's making that stuff. He's messing with people. He doesn't. I don't think he really. If he believes that, I think what he's saying is, from what I gathered from his stuff is. I think that's a facade. I think that's a building your legend. You know, like right. I think what he does believe is that stories can affect reality, and I believe that too. Because if you look at Watchmen, there's some parallels. But the thing is, it wasn't like Doomsday Clock was a new thing. That was an actual thing. He just built off that. And the Charlton comics, all of it was, you know, it was all there. It just nobody had done it yet.
Well, I heard that he actually, I don't think he filed a lawsuit, but he, like, you know, was really angry and had like a grievance against The Simpsons because they did the episode with him in it, and
oh my god, he's mad about that too.
And because because they brought up the idea of Watchmen Babies before he did, and he was like, "Well, you guys stole my idea. Now I can't go back and do it now." And
no, come on, man. I was like, what? There's no way. But I wouldn't be surprised. The only reason I would buy that was because, like, he gets mad. How you can only hear somebody being outraged so many times before it loses its effect. It's like everything he's mad about, and you just get to the point where, like, I don't care anymore. It's like, I like V for Vendetta, I like Watchmen, I like Miracle Man, I like your contributions. I don't know if everybody talks about Swamp Thing. I never really got that so much. But, like,
didn't he create Mogo? The Green Lantern Planet?
He created, he did that thing with Kevin O'Neill where he created the what's his name? Is it Ion? The guy that's the ultimate Green Lantern that's supposed to be the last one. Yeah, and I think that was that planet that you're talking about, because it was that controversial Green Lantern, Tales of Green Lantern volume, annual number 2, where like he did that story, and Kevin O'Neill's art style was considered perverse.
Well, Kevin O'Neill's art style is perverse. There's no question about that. I love Kevin O'Neill stuff, and I love like your martial law, but yeah, Kevin O'Neill's art style is perverse.
I like it though. I really do. He's one of my favorites.
Have these people ever seen a fucking gargoyle before? Really? Have they ever looked at a church at all?
There's no wings or anything. Like
they look like frogmen or something.
Yeah, they're sleeve stacks. They're like,
that's what they are.
Yeah. But like
my baby, my baby.
Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, I like Alan Moore, but you know, but I tell you what now, if you made a Watchmen Babies cartoon in the style of the old Jim Henson Muppet Babies, I would watch the hell out of that, man.
There's a YouTube video where they did like a intro to like a '90s Watchmen cartoon. Have you seen it?
Yeah,
it's kind of cool.
What, Boo Bass is playing like a Scooby-Doo kind of role.
Yeah, like they always had to have that horrible like uni character. Or like it's what was it in Amazing Friends, the dog for Firestar?
Miss Lion?
Miss Lion, yeah. There's always like that character, you know.
Miss Lion.
Snarf, snarf. Snarf, snarf. Oh Lord.
Oh. So yes, I mean, I like I know, but I do think you're right that I think a lot of that might just be him selling it, because if you look at the pictures of him, he always has that kind of like Stephen King, like in the darkness with the hair on. Well, finally, one motherfucker with some wings.
That looks kind of like.
Anyway, but he.
That's Casey then, right?
That's got to be. He looked like a cross between like a flying monkey from Wizard of Oz and. I don't know.
He must have had some bad morning breath. He just knocked that bitch out.
It's like hair from my ass. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, I think it's selling that. But I mean, Alan Moore is he's a phenomenal talent.
Sure.
And you know, I think that I think it's part of it too. When you get to something like that you're like, you don't want to seem ordinary, because some of the things that you've done is so extraordinary that it may like downplay your work. If you're like, oh yeah, he's just like us.
Well, the thing too is, I'll say this about him. And Alan Moore, it's funny, I don't have one of his issues. Like Watchmen's probably my favorite thing ever, but for some reason it's not like it came later, you know,
right.
With my reading experience. So like I can't say it's what changed me into like a casual reader or a fan, but it's like he I don't even know what the hell I was going with it. Sorry, it's late at night. I'm getting old, and I lose my train of thought. I had a point, but I completely lost it.
You were telling me about how you used to tie an onion to your belt, so that was the style of the time.
No, that never happened. Oh, Lord. But like,
give me $5 piece for a quarter.
Now I'm never going to find out what I was talking about, because I don't know what you're talking about right now. I don't know about penny whistles and moon pies.
Because the Kaiser stole our word for nickel. But yeah, Alan Moore, I mean, I think a lot of people are like, you know, he's he thinks in such a way, and he approaches comics in such a way that that a lot of people. It's not that they don't, but maybe they're kind of afraid to, because it's kind of like what we were talking. Well, actually, I was talking to somebody else about it, but we've talked about those other people where they have a really good idea, but they're not quite sure how to finish it. And I think that's where people like they have this idea, they can see it all the way through, but then when you get to the end, they're like, I don't know how to put a cap on this. And
so you just create this great big giant squid in the middle of New York, destroy everything like
and then you just walk away.
And you walk away.
Yeah, it's called pulling a John Byrne.
Well, yeah, and like the thing is, and I'll say this, just how like Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, you see a pattern developing. You see how like they all ended up getting mad at each other about different things, but they were never better when they were together. And like the thing with Alan Moore is, wasn't he better when he had an editor that kept him in line? Do you know what I'm saying? Before he became Alan Moore that could write his own ticket, is he as a successful writer after he had free reign? Because,
right.
When he was doing, like, I don't see anybody talking about Providence. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't see anybody talking about that last League run with Kevin O'Neill, which was their last project. Nobody cared anymore. When he started League, he still had the editorial of he did. Once he went past DC, I'm not saying it wasn't good, but it's not as memorable as the stuff when he had those guidelines.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like Chris Rock interviewed Prince once, and Prince was talking about Let's Go Crazy.
Yeah.
And how, in the beginning he talks about, if the elevator tries to, take you down, like, go crazy, push a higher floor. And he was saying, like, if, the devil tried to pull you down, but he couldn't say devil or Satan on the radio at the time. So he had to find another way of going about it. And Chris Rock was asking him, is like, do you find that when you have to say something, but you can't say, you have to find a way to say what it is, that it's, even though it feels restrictive, it helps you create like a better project in the end. And Chris Rock said, there's sometimes that I find that because I can't say certain things, like that I have to work around it, and I end up writing a better joke because of it. Because if I'm going to be doing like a stand-up act, or I'm going to be appearing on like the Tonight Show or whatever, I can't just be like, hey, I'm Chris Rock, and this kind of stuff. But so he's got to find a way of doing it and staying within those boundaries, and he writes a better joke because of it. And I think it can be the same way there. Like, you may have a really good idea and your story is really great, but unless you have someone to kind of be like, not even necessarily put like a limitation, right, or even to rein you in, but to just kind of bounce that idea back at you and be like, hey, let's kind of reevaluate this and look at it again, and then you'd be like, oh yeah, this would be a better, just somebody maybe talk it through. And I think you have to have a strong editor, one that you just can't push over, but someone that you can kind of go over that with to kind of help you relook at it, because when you're doing it yourself, it all sounds good to you.
It keeps you on the track. It doesn't derail you.
Right.
Like you're on the track, and it's getting you to the point you need to get to. Yeah, I see that, and and not that it's a great song or anything, but that Let's Get It Started song. Mm-hmm. It was originally Let's Get Retarded.
Right.
I don't like that word. And, I know it's an appropriate word sometimes, but it's it's not offensive to anybody the other way, and it's probably a better song for that. But not that it's a good song, so but the wording.
Right. So let's go ahead and just break for another ad here, and then we'll get back to some other comic talk, something that's a little bit more.
What we meant to be talking about.
Yeah. It's comic books. I can't help it. We just kind of go off on these kind of weird tangents, but it's all comic book related. All right, so check this out. I think we could talk for the longest time about Alan Moore.
Sure. We could make a whole show about him.
Yeah, we could probably just do an entire podcast series just about Alan Moore. But we were talking about favorite comic books, and you kind of threw some out there. and I talk about those in a minute. But you said like your first comic book.
It's probably a Captain America. I probably was Captain America, like that John Byrne stuff, and then he was doing and maybe even before that. I don't know what years those were, but like or right after that, like he was doing Fantastic Four. Like those issues were pretty. I'm telling you, John Byrne sucked me into comics. His art style, like that was comics for the longest time for me. I didn't think anybody could do better than him. So
I think I was spoiled because when I first, outside of Richie Rich and Hot Stuff, never liked Archie. Still don't like Archie.
I don't know.
But Richie Rich and Hot Stuff.
Loving an elevator.
Those were actually. I mean, I can still sit down and read some old Richie Rich. I mean, they were just fun. But that was. And those were like books I got. Not so people were pushing those on me, but I would see them and be like, okay. But when I first started reading superhero books, the first book I was reading was X-Men. It was John Byrne X-Men. So I was like spoiled off the bat.
Yep. So we both John Byrne, like
And the thing didn't have this like discerning comic eye. So when it came to other books, I never looked at it like, oh, this artwork is horrible. It was they were all just comics, but there was something about John Byrne's work that really stood out to me. There's nothing I could have put my finger on at the time, but there was something about John Byrne's work that really stood out to me. And I think it was also because the X-Men were so cool. There was at the time when I was reading them, I didn't really get a lot of the subtext or what was going on. They were just really cool stories. They were fun stories. They were intriguing, and they were so back when comics used to be, occasionally you would have a 2-issue story, but for the most part they were all self-contained within that one issue. And you could get a really good story just from that one issue. And when you're doing something, let's say, for example, the old Marvel 2-in-1s. Hold on. Marvel Team. No, it's Marvel 2-in-1 and Marvel Team, but I'm going to go Marvel Team Up.
Marvel 2-in-1 was the thing, and then like the Marvel
Team Up was
Spider-Man.
And of course, you had some Claremont Byrne stuff during that time too. But you had a really...
Claremont was writing Team Up for a while. Yeah, he did some good issues in that.
Yeah, because he did the one with Spider-Man and the Wasp and Equinox.
Yep, and he did the Red Sonja one. Remember, like with Cool Goth and stuff.
See, I never read that one.
Oh, that was a good one.
And like John Byrne drew the Equinox one.
And he drew the Red Sonja, yeah. And like he what was the other one he did? He did the Saturday Night Live one.
Oh yeah,
the not ready for prime time. Yep.
They had a really good story on that. I think it was like on maybe Sci-Fi or one of those about how that all came about. And I think you mentioned it. Claremont mentioned it in that
interview. Yeah, that's how I found out about it.
Yeah, I saw it back in the day. I just never. I used to always see it, and I never paid any attention to it at all. I was like,
And speaking of Claremont,
they can't fight.
Well, they had the Silver Samurai in that because he went up against Belushi because he was the samurai,
right?
And like he was like, oh, this isn't pretend anymore, It's like, but like I love Silver Samurai because of some issues that we're going to talk about later of Chris Claremont.
Yeah.
And he immortalized Samurai for me. So.
Yeah, Paul Smith, baby.
I'm telling you.
But it was really interesting back then how they could really do a story they would introduce a villain a lot of times, give you this villain, they wouldn't have a great origin story, they would introduce the villain, give you a conflict, give you a resolution, all within that story. And it was great. But you had the right writer could really kind of sell that to you and give you not just like, oh, the hero shows up and he wins the day. It's like it was good stuff, man. Because they could really kind of give you that intrigue and like, oh, how are they going to do this? How are they going to do that?
And the Jim Shooter thing about like keeping. I don't know if it's really necessary, but like that whole formulaic know the character every issue. Like kind of catch you up what's going on, and that doesn't happen so much anymore. They don't really, because they're doing the trade thing where they want you to buy each issue, but like back in the day, they kind of caught you up and let you know what the character was about. Like, you know, you'd always have a mention of like he was bitten by a radioactive spider, you know, or just a few little lines that just filled you in. Like
I do like how some of the modern, I think more Marvel books than the DC, but the DC were doing it too, where that first page would like show you the characters. If it was like a big team book, they'll show you the characters, like, and then they'll give you like last issue, or this is what's currently going on in the story, and they give you that recap there. But the one thing they used to do in the old comic books that they don't do anymore is when they would mention somebody or an event that happened, it'd be like editor's note. They would give you the book that it happened in. Yeah. This happened in Spider-Man, whatever. So I know that if I really want to know the story, here's the book I go after. Which to me makes so much sense, because if you're really trying to get people, as opposed to being like, no one's going to go and read 700 issues of this, you don't have to read 700 issues. I just need to read the ones that are going to help me follow the story. And if you tell me that started in this issue right here, I'm going to go and I'm going to pull those. And if those then tell me that this started from this issue right here, I'll go and I'll pull those. But instead of like constantly doing a number one, you know, which seems like
makes it impossible to do that, because then you'd have to do volume 2.0 and 500, like, and then like they tried to do the legacy where they kept the numbering, and then they get away from the numbering. So then it goes back to ones. It just makes it so it's almost impossible to do that.
And then when I look at a new number one, it's almost like you're saying that everything that came before this doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah.
And it's all you do is just a little bit of, hey, I'm going to tell you where this started from, or where this character appeared in first, or whatever. And even so, I'll mention this. X-Men 148, maybe 147, Child of Light and Darkness. When no, wait, not Child of Light. It's In the Dead Shall Bury the Living. It was the one where the guy picks off the X-Men, and wasn't the Ingara Demons? I forget what it was, but it turns out that it went back to an old Claremont Byrne issue where the guy was falling and Storm flew down to help him, but she was flying down in the dark and her claustrophobia kicked in, and she, out of fear, she pulled up and she didn't save the guy, and he hit the bottom of the trench or whatever and didn't die, and he like got some powers or whatever, and then ended up coming back after the X-Men because she didn't save him, she left him there or whatever. And to me, it's a brand new story. You've given me everything I need to know about, hey, you didn't save him because of this, but if I'm willing to see his first appearance, you told me where it was.
Yeah.
And I could go back and get that. But I never did, because I felt like I had everything I needed right there, but I knew where to go if I needed to. And they don't do that anymore. And I think you lose a lot of people because of that, because then you do have people going, I don't know where to start. Tell me which one it is.
Yeah.
And that should be something that's just a little editor's note. Just toss it in there and just keep on going.
Yeah, no, it's true. Like, and we were, I don't know, like your situation growing up, but like, did you have access to a comic store?
Nope.
Early? See, that's the thing too. Like back in the day, they could do that, but unless you had a comic store, you couldn't go back. There wasn't eBay, maybe a flea market. But I
sure didn't have like Marvel subscription like online.
Yeah, there was just a lot of stuff that you couldn't, and we talked about it. Like sometimes it's I guess we haven't. I was talking to somebody else. Sorry about sometimes you go back and try to. The new stuff is easier to read, but it's not gonna last as long or be as memorable because it doesn't count as much. And the old stuff sometimes it's hard to read because it's so much wordier than what it is now, and it's just like it's almost like this perfect blend of like it's hard to go back, and this future's kind of like
No, I can understand that. I mean, and the problem with me growing up was I used to get my stuff at the gas station or convenience store, and I didn't know there was what the schedule was for comics, because like now we know that comics come out on was it Wednesdays?
Wednesdays, yeah.
And this book's going to come out, if it comes out on time, it's going to come out like a month from today. But when I go to the convenience store, I don't know if this book came out this week or if it came out last week.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'd buy a book and the next issue might be due. It was come out next week, but to me, it's coming out in 30 days.
Yeah. And
there would be times where I would grab an issue of X-Men, I'd go and get the next issue, and I'd be in the middle of reading and realize that I've missed an issue in between. And I'm like, oh, crap. And then, of course, I didn't know where to go to get, because there were no comic book stores around me, so I had no idea where to go to get it. And
see, back in the day,
that was it.
Like if you went to 7-Eleven, they smell like cigarettes because people are still smoking. They smell like cigarettes and Slurpee. It was just like this weird combo. I don't know.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not gonna say it was, but it never detracted me from that. I would grab what I could and I'd move on. If I went to the convenience store to pick up my issue of X-Men, they didn't have an issue of X-Men there. It wouldn't stop me from just grabbing a random issue of like Spider-Man or Ghost Rider or whatever it was. I didn't read DC at the time because DC didn't interest me.
Were you shamed by people for reading comics? Like, did you let people know? Was it a secret of yours, or did you?
I did not. I remember I was in high school. It was my senior year in high school, and a friend of mine came up to me because it was like a new artist taking over X-Men, and he was like, "Yo," he's like, "Have you seen this new artist from X-Men?" And I'm talking to him, I was like,
"I don't know who X-Men is."
I wasn't trying to be mean to him or anything. I didn't act like I didn't know him. But at the same time, I'm like, dude, I'm like, no, don't pull it out right here. And it's not like he was oblivious to it. He wasn't like a Millhouse or anything. But it's just like I'm not trying to do that, here.
It's funny because like with me, man, like this was what happened to me. Like I was at church, and one of the guys that kind of helped over the youth group or whatever, he worked at B&D. And like I went to these camps and stuff, and like the older kids, they were reading comics. Like the guy that ran the skating place, his son collected. Like he was in high school, and we were just little kids. And then there's kids in junior high, and they were all reading comics. They were showing me their comics, and I was going to B&D, and like I didn't know it wasn't cool,
right?
Because there was so many people doing it around me that like I thought it was awesome, and I thought everybody did this. So that was just my growing up. I mean, I went to B&D every Wednesday, and I was spoiled, man. I had a $10 allowance. Ooh, do you know how many books you could buy?
Hell yeah,
dude! I could buy anything I wanted to, and like that was there. And like sometimes I could go back out to the car and go, "Hey, Grandma, can I have a little bit more?" It's like, I mean, that was my growing up, man. I mean, it was awesome. I mean, but to be honest, stupid me, I knew when comics came out, but I didn't know I didn't know when New Mutants was gonna hit. You know what I'm saying? It's like I just had to look through each rack until I found what I found. So like, yeah, it was amazing, man. And I was fortunate. And like, so growing up, everybody still liked comics in junior high. High school, I didn't really hype it up too much, but people always thought it was cool that I could draw, so I didn't have to hide it.
You had that. I didn't have that.
Yeah.
I couldn't draw.
I found that people liked it more when they found that I could draw. They never said, "Oh, that's geeky or weird." That they liked it, So.
No, yeah, I mean, everyone appreciates like somebody that can draw. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people do. But yeah, it was. I think in high school when I was trying to attract more female attention, comics were not the thing.
Check out my X-Men, baby.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say that I was doing that either. Yeah.
So, but I mean, I think it's weird that comics get the kind of rap that it does. As far as okay, it's crazy. It's just like, it's just a male fantasy. I can't stand that, or a young male fantasy. I'm like, it's just a storytelling. It's no more.
Yeah.
I mean, if I went and saw like some freaking like romance books, like, oh, it's just a female fantasy. I mean, that's actually targeted towards women. I mean, just because you have a superhero doesn't mean it's necessarily targeted towards boys. I mean, I don't know.
And I love how they get mad. Women get mad about like the sexualization of like of women. You know, the objectifying them, but they never complain about Superman's body. You notice that? It's like they don't care about Superman's body. They don't ever say that.
Yeah, they always talk about it's like, oh yeah, it's just you know the sexualization of all these women with big boobs and blah blah. But it's a man's fantasy, but it's at the same time you're also looking at these guys have these like perfect physiques and chiseled abs, and it goes both ways. It's like here's the women I wish I could have, and here's the body I wish I could have to attract the woman I wish I could have. You know, you don't see like a plus size woman like dating a guy in a Soloflex commercial, right? He's like, I'm getting in good shape for this woman. It's like, no, you see a guy getting all muscular and pumped, you know, to attract a woman that's getting all muscular and pumped because that's the idea of like that's what you get, right? Like gets like. And so in a comic book, you're looking at this like Wonder Woman type chick and a Superman type guy. So, but they'll focus on like the Wonder Woman type chick and not be like, oh yeah, but look at this guy. This is the body I wish I had. These are the morals I wish I had. You know.
It's modern mythology. You know, it's the idealized person. It's like, but you know, I gotta say this. I thought about this a lot. Like when I was a kid and I looked at Captain America, I wasn't looking at him and thinking, oh man, I wish I could be Steve Rogers. I just thought the outfit was cool. I thought him fighting other people was kind of cool. I don't know, like maybe I'm suppressing something in me, but like I never really thought of it as like I guess maybe just because I grew up with it was so natural. I never really ever questioned it. Like I didn't ever question Spider-Man being Spider-Man, or I didn't question any of it. I just thought it was cool, man. I just thought it was really cool. I you know, like football, people get all and they paint themselves up and they go but it's like I didn't ever dress up. You know, I mean, when I was a kid, maybe had some underoos, but I'm not one of these people that dresses up, and that's fine if you do it. It's like I just I guess I just always appreciated by drawing it. You know, it's like I never wanted to be Peter Parker or be the Hulk. You know, I just thought
Parker might be Peter Parker.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is like I never looked at Batman and said, man, I wish I had six pack. I don't know what else to say. I just never thought of like I wanted to be them. I just thought they were cool. I just thought they were cool.
Well, I'm a little bit different there because growing up, and this may say a lot about like me as a person and you know whatever, but growing up, I remember reading X-Men and I was like, man, I wish I looked as cool as Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
Which is just the weirdest thing. Be like, you wish you looked like that.
Demon.
I mean, and the thing is, the Nightcrawler is always talking about how, you know, it's like, I'm afraid to go out in public for our line because, you know, I look like a demon with my tail and, you know, I only have like 2 fingers and like a weird like thumb type thing and blue fur and I'm like Nightcrawler. And to me, I'm like, Nightcrawler looks so cool. I wish I looked like Nightcrawler. You know, I wish I was Nightcrawler, which is like, that's the most bizarre thing to wish that you look like a freak. But to me, Nightcrawler was cool. I still think Nightcrawler is cool. I mean,
I think his powers are cool. And you know, like
I thought his look, everything was cool. But a lot of that also goes to his character too. But yeah, I mean, I love Nightcrawler. I thought his look was amazing.
Well, the thing about them is like here's the thing with me. I think this is how I got how I appreciated comics. Because I liked it so much and wanted to do it so much for so long, I guess I was just so busy coming up with stories and what I could do with the characters. I never thought about being the characters. I just wanted to make them, you know, tell the stories about them. I don't know how else to say it. That's what interested me is like, well, how could this character go up against this character, or how could this situation work out with under these circumstances? I guess that's where I found my fascination with everything.
Well, and you and I have had conversations like this like a long time ago, but I think one of the things about that is and you talk about looking at Captain America and be like, oh, I think his costume looks cool, whatever. But part of wanting to be those characters is when you look at them and you're reading something like I said. Now, I was a long time diehard X-Men fan, right? So that's where I really kind of like honed in and was like, these are the characters that I know or want to know more about, and these are the ones I like. But when you look at them and you look at the characters as they're written, which is kind of going to finally lead into our Claremont discussion, is there was so much about them that really humanized them.
Moral compass.
And it made you like them. So I've never really been a Wolverine fan. I appreciate Wolverine.
Really?
He's had some really cool stories, awesome. But I've never really been a Wolverine fan. But the most I used to like of Wolverine was when he and Nightcrawler would kind of do a little team up sometimes, and they would go hunting in like the woods or whatever, or on patrol. They would play hide and seek in the woods,
See, I love the Sabretooth Wolverine storyline where they mess with each other. I really like that.
See, I'd never really gotten to Wolverine.
Happy birthday.
But when you got into the characters like one of the earliest X-Men issues I read was the.
How could you like Wolverine and you like Chris Claremont? He was the one that made Wolverine, man.
I just never got into Wolverine. He just didn't do anything for me.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I guess that's true.
I mean, I like him, but he just never. He wasn't like a big draw for me.
Sure.
He was just he was interesting.
Sure.
Now, he did a lot of really cool things, but it never really made me like, I love this character.
But he's the best he is at what he does. And what he does is very nice.
Yeah, he's the best at getting beaten up and thrown into a sewer and coming back and getting revenge. I've never seen anybody do that as well as he does.
He created the Reaver.
He did. That's great. I appreciate you doing that, Wolverine. Thank you for creating a lifelong mortal enemy for us. But that is kind of their fault, where it's like, hey, Wolverine sliced us all up, so now we're part cyborg. Let's get revenge. Wolverine sliced up a little bit more. We're even more cyborg. Let's go get revenge. Wolverine sliced us up, and so we're actually more cyborg than anything else. Let's just stop here.
It doesn't end well.
No, but like Colossus, always been a huge Colossus fan.
I love Colossus too, man.
But one of the first X-Men issues I read was the issue after Proteus, and it starts off with Colossus being like, I think like the first words he's sitting there in the Quinjet as they're leaving your island. He's like, "Mine were the hands that slain Proteus," and he goes this whole thing where it's like, only I could have done it because of my organic steel body and this and all that. But he's like, there was no other way to do it, but I was the one that had to do it, and I have to bear that forever. And when you look at him, like they always portray Colossus as this muscular, like invulnerable guy, Russian farm boy with the heart and soul of a poet, and he would be drawing in his room or whatever, the nicest, gentlest guy who would then turn into this big, huge, shining, monster, this monolith that you would look at as like he's unstoppable, but at the heart he's just this gentle guy. Like, I love the dichotomy of that.
But what makes Claremont great and makes the story so great is because the story that I like with Peter is completely opposite of that. And that's what's great about him, because he's careless and that makes him human, because here's the thing, we're all the heroes in our own story, and we all screw up here and there eventually. And even my favorite one is where he messes up completely because he was careless with somebody else's heart.
Okay, so before we get to that,
and it's got Nightcrawler and Wolverine.
It does. I know it's your favorite. I know it's your favorite issue, and we're gonna get to that. But I think leading up that, you just can't jump into that one. There's a whole lead up with Colossus, as a character, and watching him grow.
Yeah.
And they also made a big deal about Colossus' relationship with Kitty, because she was so young and he was old. But what was he? Maybe in his early 20s, maybe?
I don't know. It was like enough to where it was like close to being kind of not right.
And see, I knew that Kitty was like 14 or 15 when she first. She might have been even 13 in that first issue. And then, but there was nothing really between the two of them except for like a fondness for one another.
Yeah.
It was clear there. But if you go back and you look at Colossus, not that this makes it okay at all. So I'm not trying to say this makes it okay.
Hey, they weren't married.
No.
Yeah, it's like.
What I was gonna say is that Colossus starts off and he saves Olyana from the tractor.
Mm-hmm.
The Russian government shows up. Xavier takes him away, and then he's with Xavier during that time. He'd never had, to your knowledge, a relationship. He was a farm boy.
Yeah.
He lived on a farm, and he'd never been in a relationship. So you got this guy that maybe 22 years old, has never been in a relationship, really has never seen anything. It's like kind of how you going to keep him down on the farm kind of thing, literally.
Yeah.
And so now he's out in the real world. He's going all over the place. He's doing these things that he never would have thought about doing before.
And then you put him in a secret war. Because that's
I'm getting to your secret war. And then he meets this young girl who, he basically is a big naive. He's a grown man child,
Yeah.
And so it's almost like their relationship were two people that had no idea what a relationship was, and there's an age difference, but maturity level, they're both in sync with one another.
Yeah, well, yeah. But that's why that issue's so great. So.
Because then from there you go off to Secret Wars, and he meets Zazu.
I can't remember. I don't remember her name.
Who he straight up stole from Human Torch.
Yeah.
And I think the whole thing with her was it wasn't even that he loved her, but it was she saved his life.
Yeah.
With her healing ability, and then she was saving a bunch of people, and it was really like pushing her healing abilities to like the point of break, and it was like draining her. And I think it was more of like her selflessness on top of her being, really
Florence Nightingale effect,
right? Alien attractive, and right, and then he just kind of fell into this thing, but it's not like he loved her. He just had this like serious like infatuation with her, like you said, the Florence Nightingale effect.
Sure, yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, I love you." It was like, no, not really, because you don't know what that is. And then they're gone, and he was like pining for her. It's like, I think it's Wolverine is like, what about Kitty? It's like, who? Oh yeah, Kitty. Yeah, I like Kitty too.
Nobody loves you when you're 23. Like the thing is like. Young love is fickle, It's like love in general can be fickle, So it's like I'm not saying that he was. It's realistic. I mean, I'm not saying that's what makes Chris Claremont a great writer. It's very realistic. I'm not saying he's. I don't know what to say. It's like I don't think that he was wrong to be portrayed that way. Either way, like
no.
I think because when you're young. You want to be good. You want to be for the most part. Most people want to have that have goals and ideals or a sense of morality. They want to be that guy, but you're going to mess up along the way. You're going to hurt somebody. Somebody's going to hurt you. It's just the way it is. I mean, Kitty could have just as easily done the same thing to him.
Do you remember where Kitty was during this time? She wasn't in Secret Wars.
She wasn't in Secret Wars.
But she wasn't with the New Mutants either.
She was X-Men because she was because remember she was the one that didn't. She was the. Professor Xavier's a jerk. He wanted her to be part of the New Mutants, but she stayed with the team. And remember, it was Emma Frost, Emma Frost and Storm. They were fighting her somehow,
Right, but I'm saying during the time of Secret Wars, she wasn't on Battle World, was she? I don't remember.
No, she wasn't there.
Lockheed was there, but she wasn't.
She wasn't.
But she wasn't with the New Mutants either.
Remember when they came back?
Was she?
Remember when they came back? That was that Dragons in Love story.
Right.
Yeah, where Lockheed and the big dragon. Yeah.
Because they appeared in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And Sunfire was in that issue.
Yeah.
So maybe she was with the New Mutants during that time period. Because he was like, you should be with them and not with them, and blah blah blah. But yeah, and then of course you get back, and then that leads into your 183.
Yeah, 183. Well, and here's the thing too. Well, it was 182, 180, 182, and 183. So what happened in 182? I can't remember.
See, 180 is when they got back from Secret Wars, right?
I guess so.
And I'll tell you, like, I didn't even know what Secret Wars was. I was reading X-Men. I read a couple other issues, and people went to the thing in Central Park, and they disappeared. Next issue of X-Men, poof, we hop back, and it's like, oh my goodness, this is so amazing after everything that just happened. I'm like, what happened? What just happened? I have no idea what's going on. Secret Wars, it really is a secret, because I don't know what the fuck happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Secret Wars took forever, and like in the books, it was just the next issue they were back. They were gone, and then they were back. It took forever, and that was Secret Wars took forever because it was delayed. I mean, it was a big
12
gap.
issues.
Yeah.
All exclamation points.
He kind of looks like Jack Kirby. It's weird.
But I think 180 is shit. I got my phone right here. I'll just go ahead and look it up. But I'm pretty sure it was. God, they're being awfully sexual with those eggs. I mean,
I know.
Man, they're making me feel weird.
Yeah, 180 is the one with like Storm and Kitty on the cover, right? With
her flying in the air and stuff.
And then 181's the dragon. 182, I can't picture. 183.
180 is the one where they go to Secret Wars because Storm stepped off the plane and she had the mohawk haircut and Kitty flipped her shit over it.
181's the next when they come back, and then 182. I just can't remember what happened because I like 183 so much.
You didn't come very well prepared for this podcast. Shit, I didn't come very well prepared for this podcast.
Well, I didn't know I had to talk about the issue before. I was just going to talk about the one. Oh, Carol Danvers issue. That's an amazing issue with the Rogue.
Carol Danvers on with Rogue.
Remember where she's got to deal with the fact that she stole Miss Marvel's powers?
Is that the one with the John Romita where she's like all... No, that's the Storm one. That one.
Yeah, okay. That was a great issue.
God, I'm trying to think what happened in that issue.
Basically, she's got to basically deal with the fact that she stole Carol Danvers pretty much everything.
Yeah.
It's a great issue.
I don't. I mean, I remember it, but I don't remember it at all.
Oh, dude, it's an amazing. And the thing is that issue, like see, just like when we watched that thing about Chris Claremont, there's a documentary about Chris Claremont, and that's kind of what started this whole thing, and how he kind of built the X-Men up, and that was an Avengers story that he wrote, for an annual, like long, and he took that one little thing and made it this whole big storyline with Carol Danvers and how it affected her, and it's just incredible what he does.
Well, I think it goes back to, okay, shit. All right, so here we're gonna take another ad break. You know what? I'm not gonna take an ad break right here. What I'm gonna do is I'm just actually gonna go ahead and just to be continued this.
Okay.
To come back to the next In the Gutters like podcast. We really kind of went all around, but it's comic books, man. I mean, not that that's an excuse, but when we start talking about it, there, if you're talking about comic books, then it's a web. Everything connects, and that's the way it should in a nice tight continuity. But everything connects, and we're talking about artists and writers and kind of how they do things. Because I mean, to be honest, not trying to lead to a whole nother conversation here, but after the whole Death of Phoenix went down and John Byrne leaving the X-Men and everything else, I never would have thought you would have gotten a John Byrne Chris Claremont pairing again so soon, even though I wasn't aware what was going on. But when you look at it, they were back working together again very quickly after having this kind of falling out, with the Marvel team up. And so it's kind of weird. And I say falling out, but if you watch that, and I guess we'll reference this a little bit more later. But if you watch that documentary, the Chris Claremont's X-Men, when they get to the John Byrne leaving, Chris is very silent on that.
Yeah.
And it's he's also very silent on the Jim Lee thing too. He's very silent on the Jim Lee thing. So you can tell this he's like, you know what, I I'm not going to go into a bunch of stuff about that because I think Dak in the past has been very vocal about things.
Yeah.
He's like, I've grown, I'm matured, and
he's over it, man.
Yeah.
It's like it's past the past.
And I know we mentioned on the podcast thing once before, like the last year I was at, and Chris Claremont was there, and we were in the hotel lounge, and my publisher was slightly inebriated, and he was telling a story to us, and was like just dropping the N word and everything, and Chris Claremont standing right behind him, and then Nut Jacoby, and I'm like, there's Chris Claremont. And he's like, and we're over here, and then this ninja right here. He's like, and I'm like, no, did you give me? He's like, and then this ninja.
Like, Chris Claremont looking at him, or?
I think he was trying to ignore him. It's so funny.
Cause he's pretty. He would take offense to that, man. He's very PC, man. He wouldn't like that, I don't think.
I mean, it's not funny, but it's just like I'm like. Here's Chris Claremont. I'm like, here's a guy whose work I've followed and loved for so long. And I'm sitting here at this table with like my publisher and everybody else, and he's just going off.
I like
Oh, it's so
the closest
funny.
I got to him, I was in San Diego one year, and we were sitting at the table next to him, and he was talking to some girl, and I wanted to say something so bad, but it's just not the time.
Right.
You can't. It's like He was. I mean, dude, he was close as me to you. I mean, well, maybe more like that, but like, I wanted to say something, but it's just, you just don't bother him outside of the con. That's not. It probably, even if he was on the floor, it wouldn't be cool. So.
Yeah, I just I should have gone and tried to talk to him when I had the chance, and I didn't, and I don't really know why.
What are you going to say? I mean, it's just kind of like somebody. You want to let somebody know that you appreciate them, but they know it. I mean, it's like, what are you going to do? Name off all that? Like, could I name off all the books to him? Yeah, but he knows. I mean, they all know. They know that they're good.
Well, I was going to say, to meet this guy I wanted to meet for so long, and I guess you're always afraid of like just fanboying and
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. I don't want to fanboy, but at the same time, I do at least want to be like, hey, dude, I love your work, and you
complete me.
But yeah, I love your work, and it's you reading your work did this for me. It's like as far as the comic books made me think about this, or made me feel like that, or whatever. So you at least want to express that to him, and I didn't, and I was like, oh, so and now I feel like that episode of The Simpsons, when it was like, and so I was like, Mr. T was coming to the mall, and I was like, there's still time. When I got there, it was too late, and he was already gone. And I asked the guy there, when would he be back? And he said, he didn't know.
No. Yeah. It's also like the Chris Farley show. It's like you remember that time when you wrote about Nightcrawler? that was cool.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah. So I hopefully, if I have a chance to meet Chris Claremont again, I will actually take the opportunity to meet Chris Claremont and not say something horrible, but like, Ninja, I've waited to meet you for so long. Remember me?
Unless you're referencing God Loves Man Kills, where he actually used it. Like,
I don't think I would do that either. Reference God Loves Man Kills.
You remember that time you did that? That was awesome. You used the N word in the X-Men book.
Yeah, remember that issue where Kitty was like, hey, how would you feel if somebody called you this? That was awesome. All right, so this was our first episode of In the Gutter.
And we ended it in the gutter.
Yeah, we did. We just, That's how I like to do things, man. Full circle.
We went there.
If you can't if you can't bring it back around to where you started, then you had no business starting in the first place.
It's kind of like a reach around.
It'd be like a like a track meet, you know, or like a race, but like there was no stop. Like, all right, you just bye.
See ya.
There people would probably be like, well, that's what a marathon is. You don't go back to where you started from. Then I say, hey, fuck you.
Yeah.
I read comic books. I don't run marathons, obviously. All right, so thank you all very much, and we'll continue this on and kind of slowly find our groove for this, because we're talking about this is a passion thing for us, and we can talk about it all day, but trying to be coherent about it is probably going to take us a little bit. So please stick with us. Check out the next episode or two, and then we'll try to save me from this. WC. Yeah, I'm spiraling here. I'm asking you. I'm like, toss me like a lifeline or something. You're like, hey, I think you guys drowning.
I was kind of tuning
out. That guy right there.
I was kind of waiting. I was kind of waiting for you to be done.
No, he's going. No, you can't see me anymore. He's around.
I was watching the Babylon 5 commercial. Sorry.
And that's one of the downsides to recording while the TV's on.
Sorry.
All right, everybody. We'll catch you on next time.
See you. And J. Michael Straczynski started there, so it's like, yeah.
Yeah, well, he created that. I don't think you can call that a start.
Yeah.
Because,
I mean, before he went to comics.
Well, I'm saying you don't just start off with like, so I got this idea for a science fiction TV series. It's going to cost about $1 million an episode. You got it, buddy. So, I mean, it's not like a start for anybody. But yeah, I know what you mean. That's where most people learned who he was.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thanks a lot, and join us next time for more In the Gutters.